Hello there people, and welcome to another video here on my channel. My name is Merel and I've got something new, I guess? Experimental? It is kind of strange to say something experimental if this is like the third video you're recording, but we'll run with it. It'll be fine. So, as you might have heard, last Wednesday the verdict finally came in, and not gonna lie, kind of happy that Depp won all of his defamation claims. I'll probably make another video, a separate video about the verdict, so I'm not going to get too much into that right now. I got something else I want to talk about, because very soon after the verdict was in, probably not the, well, no, maybe it was the same day, I was told that Elaine Bredehoft, Amber Heard's attorney, was giving an interview at the Today Show. And I don't know the Today Show, I don't know what kind of people they are, I don't know what kind of show it is. I have no idea, but I was excited because in a weird way I kind of hoped that Elaine would reconsider and would recant and maybe, I don't know, say something that would not infuriate the heck out of me. But as soon as other responses started flowing in, I knew that there was not a chance. So I've been holding off on actually watching it because I wanted to watch it for the first time with you lovely people. And so here we are. I'm kind of mentally steeling myself for what I'm going to hear, and I'm not expecting a lot of good stuff. It's going to be tough. So, just a note, though I am frustrated and annoyed, as you might notice, I'm not here to vilify her as a person, because it's just actions that I'm frustrated with, and it's things being said and the way they're said or why they're said or what it implies or how it's being used and all that kind of stuff. I don't condemn people. I just, it's not my MO. I really don't. I condemn actions, and even then, my mind can be changed about specific context. If by some miraculous stroke of divine power, it turns out that I have been gaslit this entire trial and Amber Heard was actually the victim, then I'll reconsider my opinion. And it would be very nice if I hadn't condemned the person and only their actions, because it's easier to come back from that. Because then you don't start coloring the entire person as a bad person. They're just a person, and you condemn their actions. And when you reconsider their actions, it is significantly easier than trying to come back from your opinion of a person. So just general advice right here: don't condemn people, condemn actions, but steer clear of people. Another note, I haven't actually seen any of this, so it's going to be interesting. So yeah. So without further ado, let's just dive right in, shall we?
And we are joined now by Amber Heard's attorney, Elaine Bredehoft. Good morning to you. It's good to see you. First question, how is Amber doing? We saw her hearing that verdict. It took a long time to read. It was a sweeping verdict for Johnny Depp. How did she handle it?
You know, one of the first things she said is, "I am so sorry to all those women out there. This is a setback for all women in and outside the courtroom," and she feels it, and she feels the burden of that.
Well, knowing the case,
this is the face of someone who's not buying this. I honestly have trouble believing that that was one of the first things that she said. She might have said it, but the way Elaine is presenting it right now is just like that's the first thing that went through her mind, like losing her own suit and actually owing Johnny Depp $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages, which, well, it's only capped at $350,000, but still, that's over $10 million that she owes him. But I truly don't think that's the first thing she said. I think the whole setback for women, women's rights this, and victims that, it feels, there are so many people who say that, who genuinely mean it and who genuinely deeply care about the fate of all these women, and I applaud them for it massively. I love the fact that they're doing that, as long as they're not taking down other victims. I mean, let's be honest. But I just don't think that Amber Heard is one of those people, because she does it right when she needs a pity play, and she does it right when she needs sympathy. And I don't see her actually doing it when it matters to say that, if you know what I mean. But this is only a 5-minute video, and I've been talking a lot, so.
And knowing the law, as you certainly do, it favors defendants like Amber Heard. Are you stunned that the jury essentially rejected her story?
Well, you know, really what happened here is it's a tale of two trials. Johnny Depp brought a suit in the UK for the same case.
No, not the same case. Stop! Everyone who's saying the UK trial is the same case, just stop. Amber Heard was not a party in that case. She was a witness. The party in that case was NGN, whatever, the group that owns The Sun. And Dan Wootton, the guy who wrote the article. Those were the parties that Johnny Depp sued in the UK, not Amber Heard. So speaking in evidentiary terms, it's completely different. And not only that, there's a massive list of why the UK case worked out differently than it did here. And that's not to just discredit it like, oh, it's just some useless non-judgment that just doesn't count. It counts against The Sun. It does not count against her. And defamation is notoriously hard to prove, let's be honest. But that's why he sued her in this case and not the Washington Post. So everyone who says that it's the same case, stop. And everyone who says, well, this is just bullshit because he lost that other case, stop. Just no. I'm also not going to say, well, the UK trial is bullshit because he won this one. They're not the same trial. Just, Zen.
And the burden of proof was easier for him there. The Sun had to actually prove that it was true. And,
well, she's right
the
there.
Court found there, and we weren't allowed to tell the jury this, but the court found that Mr. Depp had committed at least 12 acts of domestic violence, including sexual violence, against Amber.
Also not entirely true. If I remember correctly, and I might not, but if I remember correctly, 12 of the 14 allegations were proven to the civil standard to be substantially true, which is not to say entirely true. And a lot of his evidence was discounted just straight off. There were no expert witnesses allowed, to my knowledge. It was a completely different trial. And honestly, looking at the judge's ruling, it's so weird. I just feel gaslit by that verdict. It's really weird. But he still lost. I mean, that's fact. And you're not really allowed to bring past won and lost cases into a new case just because you feel like it. Because that would be too prejudicial. It would give the jury an idea, oh, we should be ruling against this because he lost the other one. If we rule in favor of it, then you get this conflict of, were they wrong? Are we wrong? It's just doesn't make for a clean trial.
So what did Depp's team learn from this? Demonize Amber and suppress the evidence.
I don't even know what to say. I feel fucking gaslit by Elaine. What's happening? Demonize Amber? No one demonized Amber. Like, people on TikTok maybe, but not Johnny Depp, not any of his team. No one demonized her. At least not as much as you were doing, Elaine, with your fucking drug issues. Not that she has drug issues. She has issues with the fact that he does drugs, and somehow that makes him into a monster without any kind of substantiation. And I'm just so tired. Let's crack on.
We had an enormous amount of evidence that was suppressed.
You did not have an enormous amount of evidence that was suppressed because you did not have an enormous amount of evidence, period.
In this case that was in the UK case. In the UK case, when it came in, Amber won, Mr. Depp lost.
No, the judge more or less took her word as fact, something that her expert witnesses in this case also did, by the way. And not only that, I've seen witness statements that were brought in for the UK case that were not let in this case. And I've heard the proffers. The proffers is, from my understanding, when the attorneys, well, without the jury's presence, they list the evidence that was objected to because of hearsay or for whatever reason wasn't let in during the trial, for an appeal court, so that they can say this is the evidence that we had, so that they can't say when the appeal trial comes on, like, oh yeah, but they didn't let this in, because that would allow you to basically bring in new evidence without ever proving that it was in before, or that you try to get it in before. So that's what proffers are. And I've heard the proffers, and honestly, it wasn't a lot. There was actually an expert witness that was denied on Depp's part, the forensic pathologist, if I remember correctly, that was going to testify as an expert witness, whether or not her injuries were consistent with the beatings that she described. Now that would have been fire. That would have been fire. Real.
Here's the thing. You were able to get some evidence that you say demonstrated abuse. You certainly had her testimony. There were pictures, documents, all kinds of evidence.
I'm sorry, but I have seen no evidence of abuse. And I'm saying that even while knowing about the photos. Because if you want to use a photo as proof, you have to be able to trust in the veracity of that photo. And Amber Heard more or less just undercut the entire credibility of all of those photos by entering on not just one but two occasions, two different versions of the same photo as evidence from separate moments. There was the one photo which showed injuries on her face that I could not see, by the way. And two photos had a different color grading, like her cheek was much more red on the other one. And she said on the stand that they were not the same photo. They were not edited. The only difference was that there was a light turned on between the two, which is impossible. Also because her own metadata shows that the photos were taken at the exact same second. And if you overlay them, I mean, it's not even, I didn't even need to see that be put together in an overlay. I could see with my own eyes that those two were the exact same photo and that no one is going to be able to stay that still. Not only her, but also the one taking the photo while the light was turned on, even if you had a third person to turn the light on, because you'd have to take so much care to stay still. You'd have to do it on purpose. And why would you stay that still on purpose? I mean, obviously you take a photo and then you're like, hey, yeah, I'll put the light on, and you moved or you breathe or you blink or whatever. And she said they were two different pictures. So that basically says, all right, now I cannot trust a single photo that you showed me. And some photos might be true. Is a photo true? Well, some photos might be real, but I can't trust any of them with this kind of crap. So no, it doesn't count as evidence to me, even though they might have been, because you single-handedly ruined the credibility of all of your evidence. And I'm not sorry. This is a terribly spicy video right now, and I have a lot of trouble trying to keep it all straight, but I just can't. I'm done. I'm so done. I'll try to be more nuanced in the future, I swear. And if anyone wants to come and correct me for some reason, I'll listen, I swear. We've only had like 1.5 minutes of the first, not the first, we've had 1.5 minutes of 5.5 minutes.
But in point of fact, the jury rejected it.
As they should. The jury instructions even say that it's up to the jury to determine whether or not they find certain witnesses, testimonies, or pieces of evidence credible. And they did.
You argued in your closing arguments that if they found even one instance of abuse, and it did not even have to be physical abuse.
This is such a strange argument as well. First of all, I could make an entire video on her closing arguments alone, because that was something. But if they find only one, it's not defamation. Is such a weird way to try to win this. Because you said earlier in the UK trial they found 12 of the 14. So why are you now going that you only need one? I mean, that shows that you don't have a lot of trust in your own evidence, right? You say no, you only need one, and then it's not defamation. But honestly, if someone punches me once and I go out saying, I'm a victim of domestic violence, I feel disingenuous. And moreover, if someone punches me once, and I've been verbally harassing and haranguing and just verbally assaulting them, nagging and insulting them, like for years, and somebody punches me once, and I go out saying, I'm a victim of domestic violence, I'm still like, that's not fair, honestly. I mean, it's fine if you say he punched me. That's totally fine. That's factual. But don't portray yourself as the victim in a relationship if you're the main perpetrator. And that's my whole problem with this issue, that they go like, if he abused her only once, and it doesn't even need to be physical or sexual. And I'm like, now you're weakening it to verbal, because I'm pretty sure that the op-ed did not say verbal abuse. Sorry, but it's very strange if that's your argument. There's just... Sorry, I was confused because I thought I saw a very big fly, but it turned out to be a fruit fly very close to the lamp. Moving on.
That they would have to find for Amber Heard, and they didn't.
And the other part to bear in mind here is nothing changed. The op-ed didn't even mention Mr. Depp by name.
We all knew. Come on. If you say 2 years ago, I became a representative of domestic violence, or a figure I don't know what the exact words is, but if you say 2 years ago in 2018, it's not very hard, especially when you went out very visibly and publicly with a bruise on your face, getting a TRO, with your story getting put in People magazine and all that kind of crap. Then for real, you cannot say like, oh, but I didn't mention him by name. No. Virginia is a state that totally understands defamation by implication. And the jury obviously found that those statements were about Depp. You can't hide behind, oh, but I didn't mention him by name. Like, if you're going to say like, yeah, a very well-known actor who played a beloved pirate in a very famous movie franchise, and then someone says, oh, you're talking about Johnny Depp, and I'm like, oh, no, but I didn't mention him by name, then it's not going to fly. I'm sorry, it's not.
And so what basically they did here is demonize her.
No.
And they were able to suppress the medical records, which...
He didn't have any medical records. Like, come on, stop with the gaslighting, for fuck's sake.
Were very, very significant because they showed a pattern going all the way back to 2012.
You know what Amber Heard said? She said, I gave you everything. Like, I turned over all the evidence that I have. And she basically blamed her lawyers for not showing it during this trial. She didn't even say it wasn't let in or it was objected to, or she doesn't say any of those things. She's like, no, I submitted everything. Then why isn't it in the trial? And now Elaine's gonna go out and say that it was suppressed by Depp's team? It's insane.
Of Amber reporting this to her therapist, for example. We had significant amount of texts, including from Mr. Depp's assistants, saying, when I told him he kicked you, he cried.
Yeah, and there's a witness statement from Stephen Duders, whom that text came from, that under oath said he did not kick her, and that he was instructed by Depp to just say whatever to placate her. And maybe I'll put a link to that witness statement in the description below. And obviously anyone can commit perjury, but I honestly don't think that he's lying, because if he's lying about it, and if he did kick her, that would mean that that Depp is lying, that Stephen Duders is lying, that Jared Judge is lying, and that Malcolm Connolly is lying. Or conversely, Amber Heard is lying. I don't know. I tend to go with the one having more independent testimonies, to be honest. So, yeah, it's still only the one text. They always keep coming back to the one text where Stephen Duders said that to Amber to, in his words, placate her or mollify, I think he said. And yeah, we did see medical records in this trial where Amber Heard reported some kind of abuse to her nurse, Erin Filati, but she did a check and she saw nothing. And then she went to Monroe, I think his name was, another doctor's office for a check because of some abuse, and he found nothing. We saw those records and they said they found nothing. So that would also imply that her telling the nurse and the doctor that she was abused was truthful, but that both the nurse and the doctor lied about seeing nothing. Do you see a pattern emerging here? Because I keep hearing either Amber Heard is lying or everyone is lying. Yeah.
So sorry. That didn't come in.
Is there any other way to interpret this verdict, though?
No.
That this jury, for whatever reason, and I hear you on some of the evidence that they didn't hear, listening to Amber Heard, did not believe a single word.
Yeah, there is a reason why they didn't believe her. I'm sorry, we should really keep going.
You know, and that's because she was demonized here.
No, she was not. She was not. I mean, honestly, the jury was only supposed to know whatever they saw within the four walls of the court. They weren't supposed to know anything about them. I mean, you cannot prevent people from knowing Johnny Depp, I guess, but they weren't supposed to have any kind of knowledge about the case or, anything. So whatever they heard in the court made them decide that she was not credible. And I don't know about you, but I didn't hear much demonizing going on during Depp's case in chief, honestly. I mean, she was so much more vile about him than he ever was about her. Listen to the testimony. He has trouble getting out the words. He has trouble even calling her cruel or saying that she did things. And meanwhile, she's just rampaging all over the place about all these terrible things, doing her best to push a single tear out. And again, I'm not saying that DV victims have to fit into a certain profile. I'm not saying like if you don't cry, it didn't happen. It's that she tried so hard to cry, and it was so visible that she was trying to cry, and it didn't work. And then her own acting coach testified as her witness, saying that she has trouble crying when she's acting, and we're like, we all saw that. So no, the jury wasn't influenced. The jury wasn't somehow made to believe that the jury wasn't somehow manipulated into thinking that she was lying. They watched her with their own eyes. I mean, how much can you really do in 4 weeks to make someone completely impervious to their own testimony? If anything, if they had been demonizing her, then when she started testifying and she was telling the truth, that would have connected with them, right? At least a little bit. Because, well, the jury verdict has to be unanimous. So they all agreed that she was incredible. And the thing is that I don't believe that they were able to demonize her in 4 weeks so much that they became completely unfeeling to whatever she said on the stand. It's a wild claim, Elaine. Wild. For real.
A number of things were allowed in this court that should not have been allowed, and it caused the jury to be confused.
Sorry, your team, Elaine, your team is the one that brought in an expert to look at hashtags on Twitter that showed that justice for Johnny Depp was shared like billions of times, and that there was a hashtag going around called Amber Turd. I mean, I'm not laughing about the hashtag because I don't really like calling people names. I like the irony of the massive self-own that they brought in an expert that allowed them to repeat Amber Turd in court all this time. If anything, that's their own fault. Really, that's their own fault. And nothing was let in that influenced them in any way against her except for, I don't know, maybe evidence? Just a thought.
We weren't allowed to tell them about the UK judgment. So the damages
With good reason.
is completely skewed. There are no damages. It stopped at November 2, 2020, which is when the judgment came down in the UK.
If anything, that damages Depp more because he wasn't allowed to claim damages after November 2nd, 2020. So if he had any damages beyond that point, they would have been, and he would have been allowed to add that in. It would have been more. So again, it's so, we're only 3 minutes in. Come on, Elaine.
Let me ask you about social media in this case. Unlike any celebrity case, certainly I've ever covered or ever seen, social media was a part of this. And it was incredibly lopsided and vitriolic against Amber Heard.
Again, I think Amber Heard brought that down on herself, and I don't condone vitriol. I don't condone, I mean, I get that some people might interpret this as vitriolic, but I'm not saying, oh, she's just such a crazy bitch, ha ha ha. I'm arguing facts. I'm arguing logic. Arguing? Did I say arguing? I'm arguing logic. I'm arguing facts. I'm arguing what happened. I'm not throwing all of this on her character per se. I'm not saying, well, I'm not going to believe her because she is just crazy or something. I haven't even mentioned her personality disorders in this because I don't think that it's necessary. Well, now I mentioned them, but is that vitriol really? Is that unreasonable hate that I'm spewing here? Or am I just calling things out as I see them with logic and with reason and with arguments? Because I don't know. Well, I do, but it's a rhetorical question.
Do you think that had an effect on the case?
Absolutely.
You think jurors were aware of it? They weren't supposed to be. They're admonished every single day. Don't look at it. Do you think they did see it?
How can you not?
How can you not? By being an upstanding citizen and performing your civic duty and not looking at it because you know that it's a high-profile case and you're ordered not to. Because you can ruin the actual case if they find out and then they have to do it all again. So, like that, maybe?
Went home every night. They have families. The families are on social media. We had a 10-day break in the middle because of the judicial conference. There's no way they couldn't have been influenced by it.
Elaine, you are the one that brought in justice for Johnny Depp. I stand with Johnny. Amber Heard is an abuser. Amber Turd, you brought that into the trial, for fuck's sake. I'm so sorry that I'm being so out there right now, but I've had to deal with this for 6 weeks, and I'm done. I mean, all of my other videos, or at least most of them, are hopefully going to be a lot more even-keeled, but I'm allowed one little spat, right? But again, if you have a problem with the jury not being sequestered, you should have asked for them to be sequestered. You have that right. I don't think you did. So if you complain about it after the fact, I have an issue with it. Especially when you're not admitting, like, yeah, in hindsight, we should have applied for them to be sequestered. But no, it's just like, this is an error they made. And what the hell? You're just blaming the jury for looking at social media? Not only because you were the one bringing in the hashtags and the popularity on Twitter and all that stuff. You could have asked for them to be sequestered, and they might have said no, but then you would have been able to say that at least. Oh, I apparently got a Steam message. Hang on. All right, I fixed that. But I've also totally lost my train of thought. So let's just continue watching then.
And it was horrible. It really, really was lopsided. And I appreciate your saying that. It's like the Roman Colosseum, you know, how they viewed this whole case.
You're still bringing it like it came out of nowhere, like it wasn't somehow earned. And again, I don't condone actual harassment. I don't condone calling people names or attacking someone's person, but stop bringing it like she didn't bring this upon herself. Again, not saying she earned it, but stop pretending that it came completely out of nowhere.
I was against cameras in the courtroom, and I went on record with that and had argued against it because of the sensitive nature of this.
Well, many people, including myself, have kind of gotten the sense that they didn't want it televised because then you would be able to see what a horrible witness Amber Heard is. And I mean horrible in the sense that even Elaine didn't trust her to keep her story straight and to actually give the answer that they were planning on, because that's why she was asking so many leading questions and getting so many objections, and that's why she completely fumbled on her redirect, her first redirect. And a lot of people do tend to have the feeling that they didn't want cameras because then you'll be able to keep a lot of stuff hidden. And that's also why a lot of people don't know what actually happened in the UK trial, because it wasn't televised, and maybe rightfully so, I don't know. But I think this should have been televised, in all honesty. I don't like all of the actual hatred and all of the polarization that's going on the internet. I like peaceful, maybe a little heated, but peaceful discussions of facts and logic, and you can include emotion in there, but don't attack people, don't use fallacies, don't be mean. But I still think it should have been televised, because now the whole world has been able to see with their own eyes and judge with their own eyes and ears and listen to the testimony and look at the evidence, and they still came out with the exact same conclusion as the jury. So what gives, Elaine? I don't want to somehow devalue her, by the way, by mentioning her first name. First of all, I do the same for Camille, and it's kind of weird doing it for Ben Rottenborn and Ben Chu, because they're both called Ben, so that's kind of confusing. And honestly, Elaine, I'm sorry, the name is just kind of fun to use in a complaining tone. I'm so sorry, Elaine, but it is. I know you didn't choose it. Well, maybe you did if you changed it later, but I don't think so. This is entirely irrelevant, by the way. Let's just continue.
But it made it a zoo.
Does your client want to appeal?
Oh, absolutely. And she
Everyone
has some
who
excellent
loses
grounds for
wants
it.
to
We
appeal.
even had tried to get the UK judgment in to dismiss his case.
Okay, getting the UK judgment in to try and dismiss his case is not an entirely bad move, I think, but again, not the same parties. She was a witness and not a party in that trial, so it's kind of odd. Also, different legal conclusion. It's not the same case. This is about an op-ed that didn't have any kind of significance in the UK trial. As far as I know, didn't even exist when the suit was filed, but I don't know. But bringing that in to try and get this case dismissed, not entirely unreasonable, just very improbable that it's going to work. And what was the other thing that she said? I don't want to listen to more of this annoying rhetoric than I have to, but I have to go back because I forgot what she said.
Does your client want to appeal?
Oh, absolutely. And she has some excellent grounds for it.
I don't know if she has any excellent grounds for it, to be honest. Look, I'm not a lawyer, but I've watched the entire trial with commentary from lawyers, different lawyers, lots of different lawyers, and they didn't all agree, by the way, a whole lot at the time. But at least the law is the law, right? I mean, even if whether they do or don't agree on the actual contents of the case, they know the law. They have no idea what they're going to appeal on either.
Even had tried to get the UK judgment in to dismiss his case because he already had his shot.
That's a lame excuse, saying he already had his shot. Because that means that if someone defames you and you sue them and you tell your story and then that trial is over and then someone else defames you, then you've already had your shot and you're just not supposed to sue them? What kind of logic is this? I mean, come on. You're killing me.
And that's one of the issues, but also a number of the evidentiary issues. There was so much evidence that did not come in.
Is she able to pay a $10.4 million judgment?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Too bad. So sad. Maybe you should not have defamed Johnny Depp in the first place. I mean, honestly, if you play with fire, you gotta get burned. It's that simple. And he's not gonna sue for a small amount. You know that. I mean, don't be so cocky. Just and on the other hand, you should be able to sue people even if you don't have the money for it. It's complicated. I don't have the words for this. I'm too frustrated. I need to move on. So we only have 1 minute. We only have 1 minute left, people. We can do this.
Finally, in closing arguments, Amber's team argued that this would send a message, that it would send a message that...
No, please don't Don't read it out. I don't want to hear this again. No, I don't. I really don't. I don't want to stop this every sentence, but I really don't want to hear this because this was such bullshit. Like, I actually got angry during closing arguments when they said this. If they're going to say what I think they're going to say about sending a message, like if you don't have evidence, it didn't happen, and all that kind of stuff. Nobody is sending that message. And it's highly improper to tell the jury that with their verdict, they're going to send a message. That's highly not okay, because you want them to judge this case between these two people. You don't want them to judge based on whether they agree with the Me Too movement or not. It's frustrating for real, but I guess I'm gonna have to listen to it. Just let's get it over with.
That no matter what you do as an abuse victim, you always have to do more. You need to be perfect in order for people to believe you.
Johnny Depp isn't perfect. We still believe him.
If she did not get a favorable verdict, what message do you think this sends?
It's a horrible message. It's
not a horrible message. It's a message that if you lie, and if you defame someone, and if you ruin someone's life, and if you try to present yourself as a victim of domestic violence when you're clearly the aggressor in this, that you're not going to get away with it. That's not a bad message to send. Remember that they actually awarded Depp $5 million in punitive damages. And he's not going to get that, not only because he doesn't have the money, but because it's capped at $350,000 in Virginia. But the whole point is that even the jury is like, not only do we want you to compensate him for his losses, we want to punish you for $5 million. That is the message that they sent. Think about that, Elaine. I mean, I get that you have to defend your client, but you didn't have to go out and do interviews. Nobody asked you, or maybe they asked you. Nobody forced you to say yes. Well, maybe Amber forced you. I don't know. It's complicated. I'm angry.
As I said, a setback. It's a significant setback because that's exactly what it means. Unless you...
No, it's a step forward for all victims. Male, female, whatever gender. I don't give a shit. It's a step forward. Because now we know that even rich people, even powerful people, however you want to define power, cannot just be vilified saying, well, obviously they cannot be the victim because he has all that money. That's not the way it works. For real, anyone who says men cannot be the victim of smaller women, and she's not even that much smaller, by the way, but anyone who says that needs to look in the mirror and check themselves. I mean, I have every compassion for whatever background you came from, but for real, if you say men cannot be abused by women because they're smaller and they're less strong biologically, you forget that not everyone is willing to punch someone. I mean, honestly, if someone started punching me, I would try to get away, and I would only like defend myself, but I'm not gonna punch them back. I'm not gonna beat them to a pulp. Not even if I'm stronger than them. I just don't want to hurt people. It's that simple. So, as far as I know, it's perfectly reasonable to say, well, yeah, maybe Johnny Depp has more money, and he has more fame, and he has a higher status, and all that kind of stuff. Status? Whatever. But that doesn't mean that he actually wants to hit back and beat her to a pulp or whatever. It does not. Stop assuming that everyone will defend themselves in that way. A lot of people will just try to get away. As you saw, he tried to get away, and then she just kept on verbally abusing him for splitting all the time. It makes me so angry because they're the ones that are damaging progress that we made for DV victims, whether they be male or female or whatever, because they're giving people a reason not to believe women, because here's a woman who lied. And that's exactly what Me Too was about, making sure that they were believed. So don't go out and lie, because you're hurting everyone of your gender, of your ethnicity. I can't even talk. You're hurting everyone of your ethnicity. If you go out and lie, just don't fucking lie. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what kind of position you're in, just don't fucking lie. It's not that hard. It really is not. Especially don't make up all this kind of egregious stuff. I mean, a little white lie, if it's like, yeah, why you're late for work? You're like, oh yeah, my cat barfed on the carpet. Fine, go with that. I don't care. I really don't. But don't do this kind of stuff. You're damaging actual DV victims with this. And not only by giving the people who want to disbelieve women a reason to disbelieve women, you've also been damaging people by more or less gaslighting them on the stand. I mean, I've been through emotional abuse. I felt triggered. I mean that I felt the fear, I felt the tension and the anxiety come back up in me by looking at her, even though my emotional abuser was a man. So don't give me all this crap. I don't want to... Yeah, it's just 30 seconds left. Let's see how angry she can get me in the last 30 seconds, all right?
Pull out your phone and you video your spouse or your significant other beating you, effectively, you won't be believed.
Elaine Charlson.
Sorry, what? Well, I don't remember Johnny Depp having any video of her beating him up. He was believed. But this is supposedly like a really powerful man, and she's supposedly like this really tiny woman who's not stronger than him. So why was he believed then? That doesn't make sense. Pick a side. Oh, I'm sorry. Pick a side, Elaine. And no, you do not need to have video evidence to be believed. You don't. Many victims don't have evidence, and that is fine. That's reasonable. Because you can't expect people to whip out their phones every 2 seconds. It's fine if you don't have evidence, but don't walk in there and say, yeah, I was beaten to a pulp in my face and had a broken nose, and I managed to bring it down with some makeup and some ice, and the next day I looked fine and nothing was the matter. Don't give me that shit. And don't say that you were sexually assaulted with a broken bottle and that you were bleeding from your downstairs area and that you didn't even went to get medical attention. And it's not that there are no records. She said she didn't need medical attention. That is the problem with not having evidence or having evidence or whatever. The issue is that it doesn't match up. Don't tell me that you were beaten in your face with a closed fist with heavy rings and then show me a picture where your face is fine and where your arm has one bruise on it and then be all sad and like, yeah, that photo is of that event. Don't do that. Because then we can see, well, you're full of shit. Honestly, that is the problem. The problem is that what she claims and the evidence that she did show do not match. She would have had a much stronger case. I'll go on record saying this. She would have had a much stronger case if she did not show those photos. There, I said it. To anyone who wants to say, like this sends a message that even if you do have evidence, you won't be believed. No, I say if she did not have evidence, she would have had a better chance of being believed. Because then we wouldn't have been able to spot that it didn't match up. Because then we would be like, oh my God, that's terrible. And I have no reason to believe or disbelieve it. And then I'm more likely to believe the victim. But in this case, I'm like, I want to believe you, but I'm looking at a face that looks fine, and you're telling me that your nose is probably broken. No, I'm not buying that. And also, there's a lot of evidence of her yelling at him and haranguing him and harassing him and insulting him and not leaving him alone and blaming him for splitting every time, for admitting to starting physical fights, for admitting to throw pots and pans at him, for admitting to hitting him and then trying to say, no, I didn't punch you, but I was hitting you, and you're not punched, I was fucking hitting you, and then saying you're fine, and then saying grow the fuck up, you're such a baby, don't be such a baby. That's all the evidence in this case, right? And her best evidence of him being an abuser is some texts that he sent to not her, texts that they didn't even know about until the UK trial started, texts that she never read before that time, They have none of those texts actually directed towards her, but they have all of his texts, so apparently it's not in there. They have a video of him beating up some cabinets, which I admit can be intimidating, but he very distinctly does not make any move towards her. She keeps asking what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, and he says, did anything happen to you this morning? I don't think so. He wants to be left alone. She keeps asking questions, and then he walks away. I mean, he gets angry that he sees a recording, but he walks away. And then she goes after him. That's her evidence. That's the video that she showed as evidence. It's not even something that Johnny Depp's team showed to say, like, see, I didn't abuse her. That was her evidence. And if that's all you have, then I'm sorry, but no. And the message here is not, if you don't have evidence, you won't be believed. The message is that if you have nothing or this much that might possibly indicate that you were abused, but there's this much that shows that you were the abuser, sorry, but no. That's the problem. It's not that she has a lack of evidence, it's that she showed evidence that did not line up with what she attested to, that she could have better just not shown at all, and that we have way more evidence of her actually abusing him. And I don't know how much you know about abuse, but I know that abuse is about a pattern, and abuse is about power. It's about dynamics. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. And if someone hits you one time, that does not necessarily constitute abuse. You can't have two people who are equally abusing each other without very specific, significant circumstances that lead to a constant shift in power dynamics, that one time someone is getting power over one person, one time it's the other way around. There is none of that here. There are no recordings, neither of her nor of him, that show that she was ever afraid of him, or that she was ever not in power, or that he was instigating, harassing her. He's always the one who's calm. She's always the one who's yelling. So, no, the message is not, if you don't have evidence, you won't be believed. It's complete nonsense. And honestly, this is what's hurting actual female abusers. That's not what I meant to say. This is what's hurting actual female DV victims. I'm so disappointed in you, Elaine. I so wanted for you to just come out and say that she was abusing you as well or something, because I would have believed that much more than whatever came out of your mouth right here. I need to lie down. Yeah. There's just 20 seconds left, but I don't think she actually says something there.
Elaine Bredehoft, thank you very much for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel.
You're welcome. Oh, that was a very poor place to pause that. I'm so sorry. Let me fix that. So, right, what I wanted to say is I took a lot of time ranting about a 5-minute video, and honestly, I'm amazed that she was able to get me this angry that I actually had to put my finger on the space bar because I had to pause it so often, because like every sentence that came out, I had something to say about. And that's, and if you've noticed, I'm not attacking her character, I'm not attacking her person. I have arguments, I have logic, I have facts. You can look them up. You can disagree with it. That's fine. You can have a discussion about it. In fact, please have a discussion about it. A kind and respectful discussion where we actually don't attack each other and actually stick to the arguments. But please have a discussion below. I would love that. But so far, the majority, and I'm not saying everyone, but the majority of people who are still supporting her after all of this have not been able to come with any convincing arguments, even though I asked them to, even though I really wanted them to, because I want to be I want to be right, and by that I don't mean I don't want to be proven wrong. I mean I want to have the truth. I want to have the actual facts. I don't want people to tell me that I'm right. I want to actually be right by learning if I don't know something, you know? But so far, none of them have actually been able to bring in any argument that even came close to being somewhat persuasive. And it's really not because I don't want to listen. It's really not because I'm just waving everything off. I'm having actual conversations and they just come in with stuff that just doesn't stick. I mean, there's one person who tried to somehow prove that he was an abuser because he admitted to headbutting her once. And I'm like, that's not how abuse works. And then I brought in all the stuff that she admitted to, not in a pot calling the kettle black situation, but in a abuse does not exist in isolation. You cannot only look at what he did and just dismiss what she did and then call him an abuser. Because honestly, let's say that you're walking out in the street and someone assaults you and they just start beating you senseless and you hit them in the jaw once, just once. And you have like a broken leg and a broken arm and a bloody nose and you have a concussion and they take all your stuff and they run away with it and they steal your phone and they steal your wallet and all that kind of stuff. And you hit them in the jaw once. And then that person is going to come out and say, I was abused. Aren't you going to be like, the fuck, man? What? So no, that's not how any of this works. And I'm not saying that hitting someone in self-defense is not violence. I'm not saying any of that either. I'm just saying that you cannot claim that he is the abuser over one hit, of which we don't even conclusively know if he did it or not. I mean, he probably headbutted her, but we have no conclusive proof either way, whether he did that on purpose, like Amber said, or on accident defending himself, like Johnny said. There's no corroborating proof for either of those stories. And I think it's more likely that it happened in self-defense because of all of the other evidence, but not because I don't want to believe her. So, yeah, there it is. And I really need to calm down before I go to bed. Anyway, if you're still with me at this point, you're brave. You're a hero. Yeah, you're a fighter. So thank you for that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I would really like it if you put anything in the comments, any feedback, any likes, or any of that stuff. I really hate to do all the like, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff. I want it to be authentic. If you want to say something, say something. If you don't want to say something, don't. It's fine. It's your choice. Really. Anyway, I'm gonna try to calm down, and hopefully my next video won't be so worked up. I don't know what the next video is gonna be. It might be I might continue on the cross-examination of Amber Heard that I started with. I might actually do some of Johnny Depp's testimony. I might actually do Dr. Curry's testimony because I loved her. And maybe I'll continue with some of the recordings that I was listening to. I don't know yet, but I do hope that you'll be watching. So until next time, have a good night, morning, afternoon, whatever. Just have a good one.